Good afternoon po. Good afternoon, VP Sheila, VP Alex, and of course, Sir Al.
Gandang hapon.
Hi, Friday na naman po. Hi, mga Kapex Pro. It's 5 o'clock once again. At alam niyo naman, pag 5 o'clock, anong ibig sabihin nun?
Alas Speaks Pro na!
Namiss ko yan.
Kakamiss talaga si VP Alex eh.
Yes, the life of the, ano rin po the life of the kwentuhang cybersecurity. And of course, VP Sheila. Hindi makukumpleto ang case pag wala ka.
Yes, syempre kailangan mag-join ako dito dahil kasama ko ang aking former partner sa trabaho. So very exciting topic today tayo, no, mga Kapex Pro.
Ako curious ako kung paano mo siya i-introduce later, VP Sheila.
Merong clean version, meron ding very clean version. So mamili ka.
Mamimili po siya.
Yung cleanest na lang siya. Yung
Okay. Sige.
So,
Kailangan
kamusta
maintain
naman po?
pa rin ang inyong ano eh.
Mas maganda. So, busy week it is po. Sobrang busy. Pero ang bilis ng araw, Friday na naman po.
At maaraw na ngayon, no? ED Arlene.
Yes po. Opo, sobrang maulan sa Metro Manila these days.
Very good.
Pero thank God naman, it's a very beautiful Friday, ending the week with the sun naman po. Kaya it's a very good way to end the week. VP Alex,
Ma-enjoy natin ang weekend, no?
Yes po. Although wala naman technically weekend, pero looking ahead po, kasi marami na naman po tayong mga activities in line for our partners and for our members.
That's true. So meron na tayong mga nag-stream din with us. ED Arlene, baka gusto mo na silang batiin.
Yes po. Check ko muna ang baga ng aking Okay, let's start with Sir Ray Summer. Ay, ang fresh naman ni na Miss Sheila and Sir Al.
Nako,
Ano
tayo
masasabi
hindi
niyo
fresh,
po
sorry.
dyan? Ang fresh daw. Good afternoon, Kapix Pro from Sir Lumaban, Krista. Magandang hapon, sir. Okay.
Meron ako nagustuhang comment ED Arlene. Ang pogi naman daw ng ating speaker, pati ng ating VP Alex.
Nako. may fans club
Yan,
na.
bigyan ng jacket yan.
Nako, VP Alex, ino-note namin yan.
Para mag-ana ko.
May
Si
fans
Mr. Rino, gandang hapon mga Kapex Pro. Hi, Boss Alf and my boss VP Alex, VP Shi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon po.
Ayan, meron daw tayong aspiring career shifter, si Mr. Kent Liquido. Join lang po kayo, sir. And kung kailangan nyo ng tulong, just reach out to anyone from the Pix Pro team.
And of course po, itong case is always a mind opener for those who are interested to pursue a career in cybersecurity. So make sure po na you regularly watch KC. Make it your everyday, every Friday viewing habit para mas marami pa po tayong malaman tungkol sa cybersecurity. From Buknoy, Imperial, magaling yung speaker na yan. Sir, anong masasabi mo dyan? May jacket rin po ba from Archer?
Sige.
Ay, magandang hapon, sir. Na-miss ko na kayo. Ating kliyente from BPI.
Okay. Hello po kay Sir Bill Pakatang Emmanuel. Magandang hapon. Also kay Sir Mike Angelo Matrido. Happy Friday, Pix Pro. VP Sheila, may fan ka rin. Hello, Miss Sheila. Edgar Esmero.
Magandang hapon, sir.
Maraming followers ng Team Archer.
Okay, I think ED Arlene may nagtatanong dito na from Mr. Zernan.
Yes.
Ano po ang need kong umpisahan aralin to be a cybersec? Sa tingin ko mamaya pwede nating ibigay ito kay VP Alex pagkatapos nung ating speaker, no? Para
Yes po,
makapagbigay siya ng
opo.
insights.
Okay, sure. No worries.
Good day, Kapix Pro from Paul Balaguer. Hello, Sir Paul. Good afternoon. And happy Friday kay Sir Herald Agomaa. Ito yung mga regular viewers po natin, no? VP Alex, VP Sheila, and Sir Af. Hindi nawawala sa ating kwentuhang cyber security everyday. Every Friday, laging present sila. Good afternoon, LJ Rufon. May mga tanong na. Nako,
LJ,
ayan na.
lagi.
Marami ng mga tanong. Let's reserve the questions later on po. I-address po namin yan one by one. Pogi talaga ni VP Alex, Walter Ofilas Oruga. Ano po masasabi mo, VP Alex?
Basta bro, nakita kita naka-uniform ka ng AFP tapos nag-appreciate ka ng kapwa mo lalaki, ha? Thank you, bro. Thank you for attending.
From Alfred Sol Rodriguez, good afternoon. You'll be here. Hope to learn many things here. Thanks. Definitely po. Marami po kayong matututunan.
Yes, of course. Oh, si Brother Darwin. Na-miss ka namin dito, bro, ha? Alam ko busy ka pero ngayon naka-attend ka. Thank you, bro. Kailan tayo magpa-firing ulit?
Ay, masaya yan, sir. Good
Kasama ko sa
afternoon, Sir Ruel Yutan. Yes, opo. And Sir Darwin Tejerero. Mga regular viewers na po natin to. So, VP Alex, alam ko po marami na pong nag-aantay dito sa ating guest speaker at gusto na nilang marinig ang kanyang golden voice at ang kanyang sasabihin for the day. So, VP Sheila, why don't you do the honors po for us introducing ang ating napakagwapo at napakagaling na speaker from Team Archer. Thank you po, VP Sheila.
Yes, ang ating speaker for today, very, very close to our hearts yan, no? Ating partner. So personally sa akin, nakatrabaho ko siya for a few years, like maybe 3 to 4 years. Back in my RSA and Archer days, napakagaling sumuporta yan sa mga opportunities, sa mga customer meetings, and even yung mga ganitong, just helping out, raising awareness, no, sa ating community. He's always there to help out. But bago yan, marami na rin siyang naging experience. So originally, he is a programmer. Good thing lang is napunta siya sa good side of, programming. Marami siyang mga natulungan in the past sa kanyang mga trabaho before, no? And then he's also a very experienced solutions architect. So as you can see, from programmer, naging solutions architect, nagkaroon din siya na experience in artificial intelligence and all those types of very, very advanced solutions and systems right now. But I think bumalik siya sa kanyang heart of cybersecurity. So before ma-experience rin siya on the IT security, and now nag-boom ang cybersecurity. He started his stint sa cybersecurity, and then he joined RSA. So RSA, as you well know, is a very well known brand in terms of cybersecurity globally, no? But in the last 2 years, last 2.5 years, nag-move naman siya do sa broader industry which we call GRC, or Governance, Risk, and Compliance. And he's doing integrated risk management now. Again, a subset of that is cybersecurity risk. Okay, so I think ang topic today, ipapasok ko sa iyo, ED Arlene, maybe you can share. So before I pass it to you, I just wanna introduce him. His name is Alfredo Matic Jr. Okay.
Hi,
Wow,
Sir.
kwentuhang cyber.
Officially, welcome to Kwentuhang Cybersecurity. And thank you, VP Sheila, sa isang napakagandang introduction. Ano po ba yon, yung clean, cleaner, or cleanest version
Clean lang.
But nevertheless, very naman ba, kumbaga words aren't enough to express more than just the qualification, but also the advocacy na meron si Sir Alf in terms of how we promote cybersecurity. And for today's episode of Kwentuhang Cybersecurity, this is a different approach to what we usually discuss during our Kwentuhang Cybersecurity, because we have been focusing so much on how we deal with cybersecurity issues that hindi natin actually nabibigyang pansin on how to do risk management. And oftentimes, we resort to the traditional forms on how to deal with issues, especially if we are using third-party systems na hindi natin alam kung ano yung mga risks. So for today's episode of Kwentuhang Cybersecurity, let us hear from the expert himself on how we can monitor critical situation, critical risk in organizations' risk management strategy through, of course, the expertise of our resident resident speaker and resident expert from Archer, Sir Alf Matic. So sir, take it away pa.
Thank you so much. Maraming salamat. Medyo natutunaw pa ako sa introduction tsaka sa kind words from Sheila to VP Alex from the team. So I'm very thankful then for Pix Pro to invite me to do this again. This is the second time actually that I'm doing this for Pix Pro, and ever since I really enjoyed sharing yung information, not from myself but from customer experience. So yung i-discuss ko po for this afternoon actually is not really about a product, but more on information sharing or experience sharing with what we've seen in our customers. So yung topic ko po for this afternoon is third-party continuous monitoring. So sa audience po natin, you might be wondering, isn't this parang cybersecurity KC dapat, right? So there's a facet to this po. Meron pong portion si cybersecurity dito sa magiging topic natin, kasi as mentioned po ni Ms. Arlene kanina, right? So si cybersecurity, we're so hell-bent of going into the details of cybersecurity that we lose track of the larger scale, the result, the impact of cybersecurity once it gets, let's say, compromised, once it gets not mitigated or not addressed in the organization. But in the organization, we can do something, right? So we have controls, we have basically the say when it comes to our organization. It's a matter of communicating to the higher ups. What do we need to do? For example, if we need to ramp up on our security policies, if we need to add more parang security personnel, that's fine. But when we talk about third party, right? So yung mga suppliers po natin, yung mga vendors natin, yung mga third party systems na mention ni Ms. Arlene kanina, what do we do with those? Right? So ito yung question, and isa sa mga closest use case probably na our audience can sympathize is, kung familiar kayo dun sa SolarWinds na situation or sa incident, this is this, right? So but ang magiging topic ko po for this afternoon is third-party continuous monitoring with discussions around cybersecurity and other parang risk pa na nakakalimutan natin. I'm sure na for us as cybersecurity personnels, right? So titingnan natin yung cybersecurity aspect of what we're doing, but if we're anong tawag doon, empathetic and sympathetic to our organization, makikita natin na hindi lang pala cybersecurity yung pinag-uusapan natin dito when we talk about dealing with third parties. That's why ang question na we came up, right, is why is continuous monitoring very critical in an organization's third-party risk management strategy? So hindi ito tinanong po sa amin, right? So we came up with this question because of the experiences that we have dealing with organizations, looking at ramping up improving their third-party risk management strategy. Kasama po dito yung cybersecurity, no? So, itong question na to is very difficult to answer for a lot of organizations, right? Because without spoiling yung yung mga slides ko po later, laging tali yung kamay, right? If I were to use a broader term there, laging tali yung kamay natin. We can only do so much when it comes to third-party management. We can only do so much when we deal with third parties, right? And gusto ko rin pong i-impart, right, sa audience natin on the individual level. I think alam niyo na po itong slide ko na to, saan po, kung ano yung i-discuss ko dito, no? So, a step outside of the organizational norms, pero babalik din po ako doon. When we deal with third parties, just think of sa individual level na lang. Right? Kanina when I was having a call with customers, nawalan ako ng kuryente. Nawalan po ako ng electricity. So I was down for like I don't know, good 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Right? So on the individual level, as cliche as it may sound, wala po tayong magagawa but to rely on third parties, right? So kung gusto po natin na wag mag-rely sa third parties, I'm not saying third party on a relationship level, just to clarify po, on the individual level, on providers, yun po yung ibig sabihin, right? So if we don't want to rely on providers, services outside of what we can do, right? Pwede tayong pumunta sa probinsya at basically live in an island na lang. But if we want to keep up with the times, if we want to be productive with our work, if we want to basically carry out tasks, if we want to enjoy ourselves, even the hobbies, enjoy our families, basically time with them, we have to modernize, right? So modernizing is basically leveraging on technology. So kanina yung example ko po, nawalan ako ng electricity, so ang na-disrupt sa akin is basically work, right? So that goes to show how what's the importance of relying, right, with providers. And as much as I want to say, and I hate to say this, but wala tayong magagawa, right? So I have two ISPs, right? Yon, magagawan ko po ng paraan yon pag nag-down yung isa, so pwede kong i-up yung isa. I have contingency when it comes to the gadgets that I have. So pag nasira yung isang laptop, meron akong isa. But electricity, wala. Wala po akong magagawa. Right? So this slide, medyo long-winded. What I'm saying here is no man is an island. Not on the relationship level, not on the individual, kung sa mga kakilala po natin, but basically how we rely on providers, services, products nowadays in the modern times, right, to do what we do. And the same is with companies, with organizations. So yung example ko po kanina, you can just think of what goes in and out of the modern organization ngayon, which my next slide is all about, right? So this is also closely related when we talk about digital transformation, right? So when we talk about the modern organization, in some form or another, yung organization na yan has undergone yung digital transformation. And digital transformation is inevitable, right? So wala po tayo magagawa. Digital transformation is a whole different topic, separate topic na mauubos din po yung oras natin. Pero ang summary po ng digital transformation is if you don't do that right now, mapag-iiwanan ka. So for the audience po right now, kung familiar po kayo with yung mga shops that are renting out, ito ma-expose po yung edad ko dito. Yung mga VHS tapes tsaka mga Betamax tapes. Remember those shops, companies sa US, they have the same, but now we have Netflix, right? So imagine the difference in the scale and the extent. Before, it was like renting out VHS tapes, videos like VCDs, etc. But now it's the convenience is there. right? Just subscribe to Netflix, just watch movies from Netflix anywhere, everywhere. Right? Kahit anong gadgets ang gamit mo, pwede mo nang gamitin. Right? So ano nangyari doon sa mga shops na yon? Nawala sila. Right? So they were killed with the modernization, the industry that was modernizing at times. Another example is para po sa mga audience dito na pag nag-outing kayo, naalala niyo po yung pag mag-swimming kayo, pabibilin muna po kayo ng film sa mga Kodak shops, right? So, naalala niyo po yun, ngayon wala na rin po nun, right? That's digital transformation. They were killed off. I don't want to use the word killed, but they were put out of business by gadgets, by phones, right? So even yung mga digital cameras, right? Nawawala na rin po na nawawala yung camera doon because everyone can just have like an iPhone or an Android phone and then have the highest quality of cameras installed in their phones. But basically that's digital transformation, right? So if you want to modernize as well as with the organization, right, we have to go with the times. And the modern organization po ngayon is not defined by brick and mortar or company walls, right? Ako po, I work from home, right? Wala po kaming office dito sa Pilipinas, but I cover Southeast Asia. Right? So lahat po ng countries sa Southeast Asia, I cover them. So very important po sa akin, electricity, internet connection, and then my gadgets. That's how I go about my day-to-day job. And then, yung second bullet po dito, modern organization are not just employees anymore. Para po dun sa mga audience natin ngayon na bumalik na sa office, especially those who are in the largest organizations like CVP, Alex. Right? So, pag pumunta kayo sa office nila, you don't know who's the employee and who are the visitors and who are the contractors. Right? So, because a modern organization, even if you're not employing work from home approach, it's a default na there will be contractors in the modern organization. They are not your employees, but they are in your office. Right? So, yan po yung pag-uusapan natin ngayon and yung risk that comes with this. And then lastly, yung extended enterprise. When we say extended enterprise, we're talking about the infrastructure. So naalala niyo po yung pandemic, sobrang sakit po ng ulo. Kami ni Sheila back then, yung mga kausap po namin from the cybersecurity space, sobrang sakit ng ulo nila even with IT. Why? Because during the pandemic, they have to give access to employees remotely, regardless kung nasaan po sila. So ang marching order ng management is give them the access because we need their productivity, they need to perform their job, right? Hindi tayo pwedeng mag-stagnate. So for cybersecurity, they have to balance out. They have to give that access and then they have to follow, right, security policies, enforce security policies, security standards, whatever they might be. And I know of some na hindi natutulog during the pandemic, mga security personnel na kaibigan po natin dyan. Alam ko yung pinagdaanan nyo back then. It was not easy, right? And there's the whole slew of risk pa na kasama doon. Kasi for organizations who have done nag-extend sila ng VPN access to their employees, what if wala silang VPN licenses? So they have to source it out. So I mean, the modern organization, especially during a disruption such as the pandemic, right? Regardless of the services that you are subscribing from your third parties, right? In one form or another, naapektuhan po tayo nitong mga disruption na to. And with the transformation, wala pa tayong magagawa, may kaakibat yan. Yun po yung gusto kong i-message dito is may kaakibat po palagi ang modernization ng risk. Right? So, ang question dyan, again, is how do we manage yung chaos when it comes to the extended enterprise or the infrastructure that I just mentioned? So, yung pag-manage natin ng cybersecurity within our own organization na lang is sobrang difficult. Yan, sila VP Alex knows about it, right? So yung friends from the largest organizations knows about this. Tapos isasama pa natin, right? Isasama pa natin yung risk that comes with dealing with third parties. Right? it's as if hindi pa enough yung mga challenges that we have in our own organization, right? And then we have third parties to deal with na technically wala tayong control. Wala tayong control how they do their security policies, their security standards, their security activities, their practices, etc. Wala tayong control. We can only ask them how they do that, right? And then hope that they would adhere to whatever policies we have for our third party. So again, going back dun sa modernization, sa digital transformation, and then organizations basically modernizing themselves, they have no choice but to keep up with these kinds of scenarios that is in our hands, right? How do you manage, again, chaos with the extended enterprise? And then how do you deal? How do you understand? Okay, knowing the risk is one thing. Ito po yung lagi namin kina-qualify with our customers. Madali po kasing malaman yung risk when we deal with third parties. But the question dito is nakalimutan ko lang pong i-underline is yung word na understand. Right? Iba po kasi ang knowing and understanding. Right? So, how do we understand the risk of dealing with third parties? When we use the term understand, we're cognizant of the fact na, okay, if this risk happens in these third parties, what does it mean to our organization? What does it mean to our reputation because we deal with them? What does it mean to the service that we provide to our customers as well because we rely on other services, right? And there are risks there. And those risks are now happening. So how do we go about those questions? So these two are basically the guiding principles, right? When it comes to third-party risk management strategies. And some organizations will have their own. And that's fine. Nakita po namin yan with our customers is that the largest of the largest conglomerates and organizations, you might be surprised, they will have the most basic and simplest third-party risk management strategy na makikita natin. And then you have, let's say, an SME wherein magugulat po kami na, oh, very mature yung third-party risk management strategy nila. Okay? So, it remains to be seen, right? Kung ano yung third party risk management strategy ng isang organization, not only just by dealing with cybersecurity because there's a lot to deal with. Mamaya ipapakita ko po kung ano yung mga yun. And understanding what it means to your organization. Okay? So, yung dilemma, again, when we deal with our third parties, is establishing trust. This is very difficult. Same on the individual level, right? So, on the individual level, medyo forgiving pa tayo, right? So, kanina yung example ko, nawalan ako ng kuryente, wala po akong magagawa, right? Isa lang ang electric provider natin. But if let's say umorder ako ng food from, let's say, a delivery platform at hindi maganda yung service sa akin, rereklamo ko 'yan, di ba? So magko-complain ako or something like that. But wala pa rin akong choice. I still have to go through that delivery platform kasi isa lang yung delivery platform na nagde-deliver dito sa area. Wala po yung pink, yung green lang. Right? So wala akong choice. But on the organization, the company level, medyo may say tayo when it comes to establishing yung trust. Again, on the individual level, medyo forgiving tayo dyan. And totoo din naman po yung kasabihan na once the trust is broken, mahirap nang ibalik. That's also true in the organization. I have not, from my experience, I have not seen any organization who has, let's say, a bad experience with a third party go back to them, right? Just because they know of someone or, nagbago sila. Chances are, kung makakabalik man po yung third party to that company or that organization, dadaan po sila doon sa tinatawag natin na butas ng karayo, which is very, very difficult. So that's one of the dilemma, okay? The second one is how do we prove, right, the integrity of the information na sineshare po sa atin itong mga third parties na to. Ito ang pinakamahirap. Establishing trust, yes, mahirap po yan. Pero itong proving the integrity of the information that is being shared to us is also difficult for us as an organization. Right? Kasi how do we validate it? How do we validate what's being shared to us, what's being said to us, right? How do we validate information that we're getting from like sources, news, etc. about this third party? Okay, and then from experience, this is basically a summary of what our customers would like to do, right? So we also came up with 3 parang guiding questionnaires, right? So the first one is, what do we know about our third parties? Not the risk, right? Not the risk, not the cybersecurity, etc. Right? Basically, what do we know? We know. When we say we know, us doing the research, where do we get information from these third parties, etc., etc. So there will be legwork. There will be a research na kailangan gawin ng organization to know about, certain third party, right? Na gustong makipag-engage sa atin, right? So okay, para mas madali pong mas madali pong makaka-relate sa atin ng audience na, I'll use the word vendor na lang sa third party, right? So merong mga vendors na gustong mag-onboard sa atin, gustong makipag-engage, pero how much do we know about these vendors, right, na gustong makipag-deal sa atin, offering these kinds of services, or us looking for these services and then we shortlisted a list of vendors. Alam ba natin talaga, right? Are we going to deal with these vendors because of the information that we know, probably from news, probably from whatever sources, right, that we have, right? Most often than not, right, kung ano yung mari-research natin about these vendors, they will be proven at some point, right? Because you won't get those information by yourself directly from the vendor. You'll be getting it from other sources, which yung iba is na vouch na or na validate na, but you have to be careful din, right? So lagi nga po naming sinasabi with our customers, it's very ironic in an organization, right? So when we go through employment process, the hiring process, may background checking na nangyayari, right? So may team, the HR, they have background checking activities for person like me, kay VP Sheila, kay Ms. Arlene, kay VP Alex. Dadaan kami sa butas ng karayom. Mag-aantay tayong lahat, right? Sa audience po natin, mag-aantay tayo until the background check has been done and cleared. Hihingan tayo ng NBI clearance, hihingan tayo ng kung ano-ano, right? Just because we need to establish, the organizations need to establish itong trust and prove the integrity about the information that we're submitting to them as a potential employee. That's what's ironic here, right? Ang ironic is that, why don't we do that with our vendors? Why don't we do background check? Right? Some do it, right? Some organizations have that in place. Pero what's surprising is that in a lot of our customers, pag tinatanong po namin sila, do you have your own parang vendor checking without asking information from the vendors? They'll say na wala po. Wala. Right? So you don't know where do they probably reside. If it's a SaaS provider, right? Hindi mo alam kung saan hina-house na instance, whether it's AWS, Google, or Azure. You can do your research, right? So that's background check. Unfortunately, for some organizations, they don't do that, right? So this is basically the first guiding questionnaire came up. What do we know about our third parties? As much information as we can gather about our third parties, the better. Right? That's us. The second question is, what do they want us to know, and how do we validate more information? So ito yung normally ginagawa ng mga companies, even the largest organizations. What do they want us to know, and how do we validate more information? For vendors, dadaan po yan sa accreditation and sa vendor onboarding questionnaire na tinatawag. They'll be given a list of questionnaires na hindi lang focus on cybersecurity, but just the whole spectrum. Financials, anong background nyo, meron ba kayong financial statement, kailan kayo na-establish, right? Are you listed, right? Are you IPO, etc. So yung ganong klase ng information, that's fine. That's more on onboarding. Pero hindi yun most of the time enough for us, right? To basically decide, especially if we're going to get critical services and products from that vendor. If it's a SaaS provider, we want to know certain things. Where are you running your SaaS instance or etc. Right? If it's a cloud provider or something like that. So marami tayong kailangan malaman. On the onboarding side, yes, some do it, pero it's not enough. But here's the situation with this one. We can send those questions to the vendors and we can expect them to answer it, right? With us hoping na honest yung isasagot nila. Honest yung ilalagay nilang lahat na information. But there will be questions na we won't have control. We also have to respect internal corporate policies that our vendors have, right? Na hindi natin pwedeng alamin na yung details because it will have potential risk din naman. So I'll give you one example. So if an organization would like to subscribe to a SaaS provider, right? And that SaaS provider is a multi-tenant, right? Yung front end nila, web servers, etc. Shared. It's a shared environment. Pero ang separate lang are the logical databases. Right? So one customer subscribe, may sarili siyang logical database. Another customer subscribe, may sarili siyang logical database. And then the front end, kung saan mag-access lahat over that SaaS instance, is being shared by all. Now, if we were to ask, okay, I'm gonna access that SaaS instance using, let's say, HTTPS. I wanna find out, are you using SSL offloading or SSL pass-through? So this is the cybersecurity aspect of this. If they said, we cannot divulge information about this, that's fine. Why? Because they might have corporate policy saying that we cannot share whether we go through SSL pass-through or SSL offloading because it might pose potential risk if this information goes out of our security operations. Kasi, remember, the front end is a shared environment. Just because one particular customer is asking that doesn't mean we have to compromise the rest of our customers. And so we have to respect, like if a vendor would say, na, I'm sorry, Mr. Miss Sheila Vasquez company, I cannot divulge this information because of this. That's fine, right? So that's the challenge. We want to find out more. But we don't have controls, right? So it's up to us. Okay, do I engage with this vendor? Ayaw nilang ibigay sa akin whether na nag-SSL pass-through ba sila or SSL offloading, right? Kasi pag nalaman ng iba yan na naka-SSL offloading sila, mas madali pa lang mag-man in the middle attack dyan. Right? So while hindi yun mako-compromise, let's say hindi yun i-share nung customer na nagtatanong, what if makalabas yun? What if makalabas yung ganong klase ng information? Right? So that's very, very detrimental naman dun sa ibang customers on that SaaS instance. Okay? So ang question dito is, how do we validate more information? Because we can only do so much. We can only ask, and we're at the mercy of these vendors sending us information. The third question is, how can we find out more without getting it directly from them? Right? How do we get more vendor information without getting it directly from the vendors? So dito na pumapasok yung intelligence part. Right? So first question is, what do we know about our third parties? Will be your research phase, right? Your vendor management team will have to do the research, their assignment, do the background check pagdating dito sa vendor na gustong mag-engage natin. The second one is through the questionnaire that we normally provide to the vendors, right? Expecting that they will have some sort of response truthfully and then we validate it. Kung di man natin mababalidate, sorry. We're just at the mercy of them saying na, oh, we have the latest email security, we have the latest web server patches running on our servers, etc., or something like that. So the third question dito is, okay, first question, second question proves to be difficult. How do I get it automatically? How do I get this information automatically without getting it directly from the vendors? So ito yung dilemma when it comes to third party risk management, so, as well as building the strategy around it. So ngayon pag-uusapan natin yung risk when dealing with third parties that comes out by not answering those questions kanina na list down ko, right? So disclaimer po, yung mga risk na i-identify ko dito, they're not all of the risk when it comes to third-party risk management. So ang gusto ko pong sabihin is, these are just samples, but if you can think of, sa audience po natin, if you can think of any risks within that third party, just imagine yourself as a company and then you're dealing with a vendor, and then just think of something creatively na, o pag nangyari to sa vendor na to, right? Anong ibig sabihin nun sa organization ko? That's a risk, right? So first of our example is information security. This is one of the most critical risk when we deal with vendors. Why? Because in information security, wala tayong control dyan. We can only hope for them to abide whether we have our own internal security policies, and our security policies, and then gets disseminated to them, they have to follow them. So they have to prove that they're using certain security policies, security solutions, attestations, certificates from vendors, etc. That will help us to build yung trust. Remember po kanina yung dilemma natin of establishing yung trust, right? So that will help. But in the space of third party information security, this is very difficult. I wanted to share one example po of someone I know who's also working from home, right? So during the pandemic, syempre hindi lumalabas ng mga tao, di ba? So they were just in a Zoom call, and every day, right? He works in a cybersecurity space, by the way, in one of the largest banks. So nagkataon na yung bahay niya is intermediate houses, yung magkakadikit po, right? So yung mga duplex. And then pag nagko-call siya during the pandemic, sometimes wala siyang internet connection. He has to go out. He has to go out of the room or the house, tapos nandun siya probably sa terrace nila. Tapos nakakonect siya sa mobile. And then hindi niya siguro na-realize na his voice is too loud. Right? His voice is too loud. After the pandemic, yung anak niya, tsaka yung kapitbahay niya, yung anak ng kapitbahay niya, we're talking, parang natawa daw yung wife niya. Parang yung kapitbahay nila, yung son was asking, oh, your father sells fish? Your father sells fish? Kasi laging naririnig yung fishing term, etc. Ganyan. That's a child hearing that, right? Tumatak yun sa isip niya. So just imagine, like us, me working from home, I don't know if my voice is too loud. Right? Baka meron tayong confidential information na nasasabi natin, like during these Zoom calls, during these like meetings, etc., that might be confidential for the organization. Right? While it's petty, while it's a bit paranoia, but in cybersecurity, we have found out, right, that's proven that the pettiest, the simplest, and most of the time yung hindi pinapansin na scenarios are the ones being utilized by actors, by the bad actors, right? So yung ni-utilize talaga nila. So information security is very important. How do we deal with these third parties securing whatever, medium of communication that they have? So yung sample ko po kanina is just one of those like security risks, right, na pwede, right, na mangyari, right? Second one is financial, right? So financial, this one is more on the organization, what's their financial standing, etc. Alam ba natin kung mababankrupt na tong organization na to or not, right? So we need to be on the lookout as well. Kasi ang topic po natin dito is third-party continuous monitoring. Information security, yes, yeah, definitely that's one of the risks that we need to establish with our vendors. Financial risks also, like compliance and litigations, do they have any pending court cases, etc. So we have to be cognizant of this information as well as other risks, right? So there's one here called ESG, environmental and social governance. Medyo dito kasi sa atin sa Pilipinas and Southeast Asia hindi pa to nag-kick off, pero in Western countries medyo sensitive sila, right? So when they deal with third parties, at pag-segue lang po ako dito a bit, when they deal with third parties, medyo concerned sila what is the disclosure or sustainability reporting na ginagawa ng mga vendors nila. For example, meron bang vendor kami that is involved in human trafficking? Something like that. Child abuse, child labor, right? But that's more on social governance. Environmental, right? Are they using like green energy, etc.? So yung mga Western countries are a bit sensitive to that, right? While it's not regulatory, while it's not mandated, it's voluntary. So they also have to look at this another angle na, okay, if I were to deal with someone na merong history of child labor, what does it mean for my reputation dealing with this organization? Right? A bit paranoia, right? So, ganun naman tayo sa cybersecurity. Paranoia can get us long, long way. Ganun din po sa third-party risk management, right? It helps to have paranoia. So these are just samples of the risk that we have to deal with our third parties. So this is knowing the risk. Understanding the risk is this one. Do we know, right, whether this risk is currently present in our vendors, right? Anong extent? Ano yung impact sa kanila? This is more of that understanding portion, right? And then i-extend pa natin yung understanding portion towards our organization by also knowing from our third parties, okay, Mr. Vendor, you have these kinds of risks. Pero what do you have in place to mitigate all of those? Okay? So, yan. So yun yung laging kailangan natin na ma-establish from our third parties. Now, I just want to go through this quickly, right? So what do we do now? Basically know the three. The three is basically our third parties, our vendors, and all of the risk that comes with those vendors. Second is not only knowing the tree, but knowing the forest. Kasi alam naman po natin, yung mga vendors natin also have subcontractors. This is knowing the subcontractors of our subcontractors and the extent and interconnectedness of third-party risk, right? So this is basically I'm closing on my last few slides, right? So how do we deal and help our customers is basically help them review and fine-tune their third-party management process. Remember that background check, that's part of the third-party management process. Just to clarify lang po, no, for our audience, third-party management is not procurement management, right? When we talk about third-party management, this is entirely different. Second is having due diligence in your TPRM strategy, third-party risk management strategy. When we say due diligence, I go back to that paranoia, right? Because due diligence in cybersecurity can help you a long, long way. Ganun din po sa third-party risk management strategy, because ang focus natin today is to do continuous third-party risk monitoring. And then lastly is leverage on technology for efficiency and effectiveness. We can automate some of these processes, yung mga mundane and manual processes. Just leverage on technology to do that for you. Communication, sending the questionnaires to the vendors. You don't have to manually send them one by one. You can set frequency, schedule on when you want those questions to be sent out to the vendors, and then expect them in a certain period of time, right? So basically these three steps will make you more agile, right? So this is basically the whole goal of having a robust and continuous third-party risk management strategy. Yung agile is basically turning on a dime, right? So if you know those risks to be happening in your vendors, what can you do in your organization? How do you shift? How do you provide controls? How do you provide frameworks na sabihin natin, o sundan mo to, Mr. Vendor? Or do I decide I'm just not gonna go engage with you. I'm gonna go to other vendors. Now, the other one is making your organization. This is not for the vendors po. Being agile and being resilient is for your own organization. Being resilient, you know those risks will be happening. So you will have controls in place, mitigation plans in place, remediation plans in place, contingency plans in place. Ang lagi ko po sinasabi dito, same na lagi po namin sinasabi sa cybersecurity, yung lagi po nating kinakatakutan, cybersecurity, a breach, a compromise, an incident is only a matter of when, not a matter of if. Ganun din po sa lalo na po sa third-party risk management, right? So by being resilient, you can come up with strategies, right? So yeah. This is very general. There's a lot of details that goes into this. Yung minutia, yung comprehensive details. It would probably take us half a day to go through each and every one. But I just wanted to share po, no, when we're talking about cybersecurity with our third parties, we also have to take a look at the broader spectrum, right? So we can focus on cybersecurity, but we cannot be myopic, right? So that's the term po na we use when we go to a company that's modernizing themselves. Modern organization cannot be myopic, right? The same goes with third-party risk management. You have to take a look at the risk. Kasi while you're looking at cybersecurity risk, this cybersecurity risk might also have link to financial risk, reputational risk, strategic risk, etc., etc. So with that, yun po ang aking session. Sorry, for this afternoon. Medyo long-winded. Sorry, Shi. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Oo.
Baka may part 2 pa po tayo because talagang maganda rin po yung topic and very timely actually.
Partner, pwedeng paki-unshare ang ating screen para matuloy ang ating kwentuhan. Thank you.
Sorry, yes. Yan.
Yan. Okay, I think that was a very interesting topic and mukhang kulang ang isang oras na naman, no? Mukhang dung pinakita ni Alf yung sanga-sanga ng mga puno is I think marami pang kailangan i-discuss.
Yeah.
Okay, so siguro may tanong ako sa iyo, Alf. Nabanggit mo kasi na it's very important to manage third party, our third parties in order to have third party risk visibility. Kung maire-relate mo siya sa cybersecurity, aside from SolarWinds, ano pa ba yung mga ibang notable breaches that were caused by a third party?
Sino ba? I lost count, top of mind.
Sobrang dami, oh.
Yeah, I mean, that goes to show kasi na you really can't keep track, right? If it's just one incident, SolarWinds tatatakihan sa atin, right? So, I mean, but there's just a lot of cybersecurity incident na ang naging low-hanging fruit is basically third parties. Right? While we may not think of it as third parties, like merong mga cybersecurity incidents na sa aircon nagmula, right? Bakit hindi siya na-manage? Well, if it's a managed like air condition, bakit hindi siya na-manage, right? So we'll lose track if we were like to put up like organizations that have been compromised on the cybersecurity scale because of third parties, because it's happening every day. It's happening every day. So that's how scary this whole landscape is.
Yeah. So siguro follow-up question bago ko ipasa kay VP Alex or kay ED Arlene, baka meron din silang insights or questions na itanong sa'yo. So traditionally, paano ginagawa or kahit ngayon, no, kung nangyayari pa rin itong mga third-party breaches na to, ano ang kulang sa mga environments or sa mga customer environments natin but hindi na ma-manage properly?
Yeah, good question. No? So there's one slide earlier na may pinakita ko. There's a term there called due diligence. Right? Due diligence. I hate to say this, pero in a lot of organization, mas madali kasing maging lazy. Right? Mas madali kasing maging lazy. If I'm a vendor submitting responses to, let's say, VP Alex, sabihin ni VP Alex, right? So this is good, bro. Okay na to, ganyan. Without validating it, you have not done due diligence. Right? If I were to say kay Miss Arlene, we're using like the latest email security. We use VA scanners, etc. Ganyan. Pwedeng maging comfortable na si Miss Arlene doon eh. Just knowing that I am using that, and without saying to Miss Arlene, I'm using that, let's say, once a year. And we can be very, very easy to convince, right? So it's for us that due diligence part. Again, yung topic natin kanina is continuous monitoring. Do it regularly. Kasi we can't keep track. Even in our own organizations, hindi na nga natin masundan what's happening in our own organization, let alone, di ba? But we don't have any choice. That's the reality of it. If we want to secure our walls, right, that extended enterprise, we also have to take a peek of what's happening on the other sides. Maraming sides eh. But we have to do it regularly, right? Not just once a year, not just, at a station na kailangan natin require itong mga vendors natin once a year. That's just like, it's gonna be outdated. In a matter of months, 2 months lang, outdated na yung isesend nila na information sa atin. Kasi there will be new breaches, there will be new CVEs coming up, right? And we don't know how they coping up with those, like cybersecurity developments, quote unquote developments, right? So due diligence is like the way to do it. It's very hard. It's easy to say it, pero it's very hard to do it.
Yep. Agree. Thank you very much, Alf. No, the discussion was really insightful. Ako i-correlate ko lang kasi fresh to VP Sheila, ED Arlene. Before jumping into this kwentuang cybersecurity, it came from a customer engagement, no? So I met with the CEO and owner of one of the leading hotel chains here in the Philippines, no? And he was interested about cybersecurity. So I presented, sinama ako ng sales team namin. And the top priority that he mentioned about the cybersecurity, ang concern niya, yung mga third party nakakonect sa kanya. So credit card payment, yung mga partners niya, etc. Yun, nagulat din ako. I mean, right now, na-realize ko nung pinresent ni Alp, yeah, this is really happening. And now, wearing my hat as a cyber practitioner, nandun ako sa PLDT Group, Cyber Operation Group, ito rin yung number 1 na dinideal namin nila, Mr. Chair, na issue namin noon. Kasi I agree with Alf kanina nung sinabi niya, and I like that statement na kahit anong gawin mong fortification ng mga security controls mo on your own infrastructure, tapos you did not do the due diligence of checking your third party at dun ka na breach, right? So baliwala lahat ng efforts ng grupo to be able to protect your organization because you are breached somewhere else na yung third party ang nag-cause sa'yo. So kaya kami sa PLDT Group, we are very, very strict. Sila, Mr. Chairman, very, very strict on third parties, no? So dumadaan talaga sa proper due diligence process yan. Kapag, for example, sa smishing, may mga partner kami na nakaka-receive pa rin ng smishing, sinususpend ni Mr. Chair yan, no? So dapat on the front ang stand din ng mga cybersecurity practitioner. Always remember, guys, that cybersecurity is a position of authority. You have to implement it strictly. Hindi pwede yung sinasabi ni Alf kanina na you just know it but you don't do something about it, right? So you have to always scrutinize anyone na nakakonect sa infrastructure nyo, di ba? Kasi if and when they will be compromised, your organization is compromised as well, right? So yun yung mga realization na dapat nating malaman at matutunan. And tama din si Alt dun sa point niya kanina na sinabi niya na pag hindi tayo, dun sa mga simpleng bagay na akala natin hindi napapansin, yun yung mga mga kinakapitalize ng mga adversaries natin or ng mga bad actor, yung mga threat actor to be able to penetrate our organization kasi hindi natin pinrioritize or hindi natin binigyan ng pansin. So yun yung sa akin, ED Arlene. How about you? What are your thoughts on this one? Very interesting topic.
Actually, this is a new this is a new approach towards cybersecurity that we always have talked about po here in in our regular KC sessions. And it's a good thing po that Archer is reminding us na hindi dapat tayo reactive lang
Yes.
when it comes to situation concerning, of course, the cybersecurity cases within our very own organization. It should be that dapat lagi tayong proactive. And we should always be paranoid and assume whatever is the best and the worst out of every scenario. And along the way, kasi lagi tayong nasa step 1 palagi, that we forget that part of the management scheme is actually the monitoring part. So for us to not only mitigate issues that are constantly plaguing the organization, dapat sa step 1 pa lang, alam na natin kung ano yung dapat natin gawin. And Archer is reminding that monitoring is very much a part of our duties and responsibilities as cybersecurity professionals of our very own organization. And kulang po talaga yung oras, actually.
Sali natin yung mga viewers natin. Baka may tanong, ED Arlene. Anyway,
Actually,
hindi pa rin
meron
mababa.
Okay.
Hindi pa rin sila. So I think they are interested with the topic. Let's
Very
continue.
much. Yes, sir.
Mag-extend tayo. It's okay.
Sir, ito po si Sir Dan Bachiller. Is third-party risk and supply chain risk similar from GRC perspective? We know it's complex, but how can we start and simplify the management of these risks? So pareho daw po ba, sir?
Yeah, there are similarities, pero when we talk about GRC, kasi it's the grander scale of things when we talk about GRC, right? So you can implement kasi GRC in IT security, in let's say finance or whatever business unit. Pero when you talk about GRC on an organizational level, ito pag-uusapan to. Itong third-party risk management, yung supply chain, right? So supply chain risk management, cybersecurity also have to be taken into consideration. Dito na yun talagang binubuo natin yung organizational landscape. How parang robustly built ba, right? Yung foundational elements. Third parties, right? Vendors, etc., including the whole supply chain, yung mga internal business units natin, and basically what do we have in place internally, yung governance rules natin to counteract whatever risk that will be identified, right? So GRC is a process kasi, it's a practice. So yeah, GRC by definition is setting rules, right? Following those rules and making sure that the rules are being followed. So it's governance, risk, and compliance, setting rules, making those rules followed, and auditing those rules. That's basically GRC. So.
Thank you, partner. I think meron pa tayong isang magandang tanong. Pwede sigurong sagutin to ni VP Alex or ng ating speaker. From Darwin Tejerero. With some international supply chain being compromised, would you think it's one thing that it's an urgent matter to look into power generation, aviation, telecoms, and other sectors? So I think ito yung mga critical information infrastructure, no, na kanyang binabanggit.
Yeah, certainly. Well, from third-party risk management perspective, yes, by all means. Right? So kailangan talaga na tingnan din yun. Kasi, I mean, yung mga CIs natin, critical infrastructure, as much as they want to remain islands, they don't have any choice. They will have contractors, they will have subcontractors as well. So so gusto ko lang din dagdagan yung na-mention ni VP Alex kanina about cybersecurity. Third-party security also follows the same principles kasi of what we do in cybersecurity, right? We should be very strict. Right? It should be authoritarian. There should be a strike of balance between business and enforcing rules. But we shouldn't lose track of yung risk. Right? Sa kagustuhan natin to deal with this particular vendor kasi wala tayong makita. And given yung amount of risk na na-identify natin, do we still push through with this? That's the question. Right? That's the question. So that's a business decision. That's not a cybersecurity decision, but that's a business decision na kailangan maintindihan ng business. Yeah.
Yep. Ako, on my point, Sheila, I will wear kasi, I mean, as a telco, we are in PLDT is also a critical infrastructure, no? So to answer yung tanong ni Darwin, no, in terms of international supply chains being compromised. Oo, sa amin ano to, no? Urgent matter to. As a matter of fact, lahat sa cybersecurity should be urgent. As a matter of fact, ang sinasabi nga namin, at PLDT Group, we operate on an assume breach mode. So ina-assume namin that there is a breach already happening to us. Para alam mo yon, we are proactive, we are vigilant. And ako noon, nung nasa cybersecurity operation group ako ni Chairman Angel, alam nila Sheila to, even si Alf, no, na hindi ako nakakatulog masyado no, nasa operation side ako, knowing that there are a lot of attacks, a lot of attempt to breach us, right? And then at the end of the day, kapag ka nangyari yon, it's not only operational disruption for us but the whole Philippines, kasi doon nakasakay yung buong telco infrastructure natin. Ilang percent yung pag-aari ni PLDT ron, no? So that's how we treat seriously our jobs as cybersecurity professional. And the urgency and the matter of, you know, scrutiny and the level of how can I say this, paranoia in terms of treatment to everything. So hindi tayo pwedeng magpakalaks na alam mo yun, ay wala yan or hindi mangyayari yan. Kami sa PLDT Group, lagi nandito si Bubo, yung head ng head of operations din nila, one of the operation head. Lagi namin sinasabi, swerte lang kami, di ba? Pero dapat lagi yung iniisip, one point or another, is no longer a question nga, diba? If or how are we going to be breached, but when. So when that time comes, we are ready to respond. Ganun dapat lagi ang thinking natin as cybersecurity professional to be able to protect our organization better. So that's it for me. Thank you. I hope we answer your question, Darwin. Huh?
Thank you, VP Alex. So siguro bago natin i-wrap up, baka pwede ka rin mag-share ng insights, no? May a few questions na nagtatanong, paano daw ba magsimula ng career sa cybersecurity?
Oh, cybersecurity. Yeah. Very, very good question. Oh, nakalimutan ko. Iintayin niya yung iintayin niya yung sagot doon, no? So, sa cybersecurity naman, again, sinasabi nga namin dito, hindi sarado yung pinto ng cybersecurity world. Ako, classic example. I use myself as an example. Hindi rin po ako nagsimula sa cybersecurity, no? Nanggaling ako sa IP networking. IP networking guy ako, no? Pero dumating yung time in my career that, you know, I think I need a shift, diba? Then that time, nung pa-shift ako, nagtanong ako sa mga mentors ko rin sa industry, saan ba ako dapat pumunta, mag-bet? So with a strong background in IP networking, di ba? Sabi ng mga mentor ko, why not try cybersecurity? Kasi yan yung magiging in, di ba? So ako kasi ang ano ko dyan, Sheila, dapat you foresee what would be the next big hit in the tech market, right? To be able to for you to stay relevant. Now sa cybersecurity, sinasabi namin, more than yung tanong niya kasi ano yung mga dapat pag-aralan, 'di ba? Let me step back, 'di ba? Let me step back, remove the technicalities ko ano yung mga kailangan mong pag-aralan, but start off by shifting of your mindset from cybersecurity to cybersecurity. Kasi kaya ko, ako nagsimula ako sa network and IT, so nandun yung solid foundation ko. Nung lumipat ako sa cybersecurity, totally a different world eh. So you have to shift first the current mindset that you have in IP networking or whatever discipline you have, shift it to the right mindset on cybersecurity. Then everything will follow. Kasi kapag nandun ka na sa tamang mindset, yung mga skill set na ma-acquire mo or the knowledge will just come naturally. Kasi mag-aaral ka rin naman talaga eh, no? You will study, you will pursue, right? So kami, well, hindi dapat din nawala yun, no? So ako rin, no? Gaya nung pandemic, no? So nag-aaral din kami, we enrolled nila chairman, nila President A sa Harvard, aral kami ng executive course ng cybersecurity. Meron kaming program sa AIM na cybersecurity leadership. It depends on what track you want to be. If you want to be fully technical, like yung mga kasama ko sa cybersecurity operation group dati dito. So pupunta sila dun sa track ng, for example, ethical hacking. Pupunta sila dun sa penetration testing. Offensive security is a good one. Ako, I wanna bet on AI and ML eh. Yun ang gusto kong pag-aralan ngayon, to be honest with you. Kasi ginagamit na yung AI and ML sa cybersecurity. And in my take, we should use AI and ML to operationalize or to automate our cybersecurity process. Kaya ako kung tatanungin mo ako ngayon, please bet on AI and ML on cybersecurity.
Thank you, VP Alex. I think that's very insightful. Napakadami talagang pwedeng gawin, ano? So besides sa nabanggit ni VP Alex, I think there are a lot of free materials that you can actually have access. You just search on Google, sa YouTube, maraming mga free videos like this one. So ito, I think it's available sa ating Pix Pro page. But aside from that, if they want to like have a more structured kind of learning, so there are a lot of courses available, some paid, some free. So probably you can explore all of those things.
Plug ko na rin yung YouTube channel ko. Kung gusto nyo mindset settings sa cybersecurity, you could visit my YouTube channel. Yeah. Nandun
Isa
lahat.
pa pala yun. Yes. Oo, madaming magandang content doon. So make sure na you like and subscribe.
Mamaya panoorin ko yan.
And of course, always watch Kwentuang Cybersecurity po every Friday so that you'll get to know all the concepts that are needed, of course, to start off your career here in cybersecurity. So, sirs, ma'am, before we wrap up our session for this Friday evening, ano po yung last message na gusto niyo pong iparating sa ating mga viewers, Ralph?
Ako na muna siguro, no? So, probably related dun sa question kanina kay VP Alex, how do you start with cybersecurity? I don't think anyone really starts with cybersecurity kasi lahat naman tayo nanggaling sa different backgrounds. I'm not even sure kung merong curriculum ngayon sa universities about cybersecurity. Not even sure, no? But cybersecurity is a stepping stone to like topics na pinag-usapan natin kanina. And you'll be surprised kung saan kayo dadali ng cybersecurity. Right, so dadagdagan ko lang din yung na-share ni VP Alex, cybersecurity is not only a mindset, but it's a way of life. So, yeah, yun na.
Alright, siguro bago kay VP Alex, ang share ko lang na insights from our topic today. Everything is becoming digitalized. A lot of the companies are reliant on third parties. And modernizing the way you do your third-party risk management is also available, no? So if you need any help, just contact Alf.
Yes.
Okay. Sa akin naman, I mean, to anchor it back dun sa discussion ni Alf, which is very interesting and insightful, I want to anchor it on the digital transformation journey, In this fast-changing, world of technology and cybersecurity, we don't have any option. All of us, organization-wide, on a personal level, we don't have really an option but to adopt. Adopt, but make sure that in this transformational shift that you are doing in your organization and even in your personal life, you do not undermine or downplay the need and the criticality and importance of cybersecurity on that one. And on the greater good, I mean, more than the profession of cybersecurity, it is, instances like this that we gather together, share our knowledge, share an expertise, share our actual field experience, to be able to help each and every one of us, right? This is an ecosystem. Cybersecurity is an ecosystem. We need to collaborate and talk to each other and share our knowledge and best practices. With that, thank you very much mga ka-Pix Pro. Nag-extend tayo, but I thank you very much. Nag-stay kayo. Very interesting topic. Thank you very much, Al.
Maraming salamat, VP Alex, Ms. Sheila, VP
Thank you,
Arlene.
sir.
Salamat
Yes
po sa
po.
audience
Thank
natin.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
VP Alex, do the honors po.
Gaya ng lagi natin sinasabi dito sa Pix Pro, right? So, sa amin po, happy Friday. Pero sa cybersecurity, tama ba?
Mali.
Paano na ba?
Happy weekend sa atin.
Happy weekend.
Happy lang.
Sa cybersecurity, happy weekend. Pero sa cybersecurity,
Happy lang.
lang. Walang weekend. See you again next
Friday,
Friday.
Thank you, sir. VP Sheila, VP
Thank
Alex.
you all. Thank you. Great session. Great session.
Salamat. Thank you.